welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Vermin Hunter, and this is the 5th video in my series. This is one of 2 videos. The second one will come out shortly. This particular one is filmed on a golf course and shows some footage filmed in late October on the golf course, one of my 2 commissions here in South Wales. Thank you for subscribing, thank you for following. I use a Centrefire CZ527 in 223. I use a Norma small game 55 grain Vermin tip bullets. This gun really likes them, it performs well with it. Very flat trajectory with the 223 and takes foxes out 200 metres pretty flat. On my CZ527 thumbhole I use a Scopemate NVRS12 LRF night vision in 850. I also then pair that with illuminated IR on top of the scope, and it's a day scope mounted with the add-on behind. I use the Infiray T2 Pro along with its mount that sits on top of the scope. It's a day scope, and I use this then as a thermal spotter and record then through my phone, as you can see connected up then via the USB into the side of the phone, and I record and view through my Scopemate simultaneously then through the scope. So you've got 2 perspectives then using the same rifle. Does get a bit cumbersome, does get a little bit heavy, but I find because I'm shooting on a budget it suits me pretty well. When I arrive at the golf course, I get through the gate after setting up, and then I start to scan all around me, get the bearings, and what you'll find is generally there's a lot of young foxes, particularly towards the late summer. They tend to like ravage through the bins on the golf course. There's a lot of problems with the foxes doing this, and they will sit on the lower end of the golf course without me going any further, and I've picked a few off literally by standing next to the golf club. From there I normally make my way then to probably 2 or 3, any particular night I pick 2 different stands, and I'll work the golf course depending what time of the year, depending where I am. Here you see the Infiray T2 Pro in use on the gun when I'm setting it up, and basically you'll see the stood in front of it and you can see the capability that this has. It's got a very good quality when you're up close, up to about 40-50 yards. Further from that obviously then it does lose. It has got a very small thermal sensor on it compared to the new and more expensive thermal scopes and spotters out there, but for my purpose on a budget, absolutely perfect. White hot or black hot, scoping along all the routes and all the roads along the golf club. The foxes generally come in pretty quick, but when they do you've got a chance to see them. What I've noticed is just using the add-on, the night vision add-on, they come in so quick I generally don't get a chance to see them. They come on me too quick. There are a couple of badgers here as well. I will bump into them, but obviously they are protected, but they do generally tend to cause a bit of damage as well. Where the foxes will dig around the bins, the badgers are very similar. They'll go to the sides of the greens and they'll walk up and down the line towards the trees and the foliage, and they generally tend to dig in the undergrowth there. On this particular night in late October I did observe a lot of hedgehogs. I passed at least 5 hedgehogs within the first 4 or 5 greens as I made my way up to the first stand. As you can see, I recorded them through the thermal and through the Scopemate. And as a result of that I decided to use the Screaming Hedgehog call on my Ecotech GC350 on the first stand. And as you notice, it did bring in this hedgehog scurrying quickly from the undergrowth. They made a lot of noise from my left hand side, burst onto the green and ran across the green, and I filled it right out. But unfortunately it didn't bring any other foxes, it didn't bring any Charlie out. And I have seen badgers previously down there, not for the last 9 or 10 months, but I have seen them, and I've used this call previously and I've had badgers coming into that. But normally when I see a lot of hedgehogs I use this call, and it does normally raise interest from foxes. On the second stand I used the hedgehog, and then I used the rabbit in distress, and then I finished off with the vixen on heat call, the horny vixen. And this time of the year I've had very good success with the horny vixen on a lot of dog foxes, young foxes like a yearling cub, and older dog foxes. You know, even before they've gone into mating season, it really has been a successful call. On the second stand I had no luck at all. As I packed up, I made my way back down to the car park. As I crested one of the rises and looked across one of the service roads, I noticed about 150 yards away a fox running back and forth, and it seemed to be hunting or playing. Now I did notice a thermal signature close by, which probably was a hedgehog. It's too big to be a rat. I normally see some rats moving around this area, but the fox was running back and forth, almost if it was in play, near the bridges. I pulled out my tripod, and I called it a few times to get its attention because it kept running back and forth. It seemed to be ignoring me. It did notice I was there one occasion, but it did ignore me then. When it came back, I took aim and then dropped it with one shot. As you can see, it's a nice looking dog fox. It's in good condition, a lot of weight on it, ready for the winter. So obviously it's been feeding up locally and preparing itself ready for mating and ready for the cold winters. The golf club is quite low lying next to the river, and what I've noticed is that this time of year the land gets really sodden and gets waterlogged, and the foxes tend to keep away from the golf course. They tend to go back. Then there's a hotel nearby, they go back into the grounds of the hotel, and obviously they're busy down the backs of the houses nearby. Never see many foxes when the weather's really wet on the golf course. I don't see many at all. I think it's just too wet for them. And thank you for watching, and thank you for subscribing. And check back in for my next video, which will be Centrefire Fox in on the farm.